Alright, I want to start by showing you real quick how in the Catholic Bible, 1 Kings 11 is titled Solomon's Errors, and in the Masonic King James, it is Solomon's Acts, Reign, and Death. So while the scripture, it is worded a little different, but the message is pretty much the same, it is a title that is intentionally very misleading. Now, before we get into these books, let me show you in this old dictionary the definition of Solomon's seal. A six-pointed star or hexagram, supposed to possess mystical powers and sometimes used as a charm or amulet. So yeah, that is the same Solomon we're talking about. Notice the word hexagram too. It contains hex, right? To put a hex on somebody. Then the number 6 is repeated over and over in the hexagram. And we're going to talk about that. It's called the Star of David today, but it's not what it was known in the past. The Bible calls it the Star of Remphan, or also Solomon's Seal. So on this cover page of the Masonic Bible, it's covered in symbolism. The border itself has basically Templar crosses with Egyptian sun symbols and Solomon's seal. Then we have the checkerboard floor with the pentagram, right? And the altar. Boaz and Jachin. Notice how the stars and moon are outside or above the firmament, inside the firmament. Then we come over to this side, and we have a massive tree with a grape bunch in the middle, just like the Devil Tarot card. And we have all different branches of masonry. This one right here, the crooked cross and crown, that's the Knights Templar. There's the all-seeing eye of Lucifer. I want to show you down here, there is Solomon's Temple, right? So we're going to be talking about the unseen temple, okay? We'll be talking about that today. And the very first thing this Bible wants you to know, this is a comprehensive cyclopedic Bible, right? So it's got all that stuff in it, all sorts of stuff. The very first thing they want you to read is this: the building of Solomon's temple. So let's read it real quick. We get this image where Solomon's on the throne with his compass. There's a demonic-looking creature. Doesn't look like a lion. Looks like a lion mixed with a tiger. I don't know. Then we have Hiram. Here's the square and the trowel. And you see this man back here ascending the ladder, ascending to heaven his own way, right? You'll find that ladder symbol a lot in these Masonic images. So, in the last video, I read to you guys about how Solomon built high places for all sorts of different gods. Abominations. Abomination of Moab. He did one for Molech, the abomination of the Ammonites. And he had like hundreds and hundreds of mistresses, concubines, and wives. So, by the end of his life, he was not a pious man. He turned his back to God. And God spoke to him twice and warned him that he would give him anything, just don't turn your back to me. But he did. So, here is where it says scripture reference for the building of Solomon's temple, right? Conveniently, it says 1 Kings 6 and 7. Mentions nothing about 1 Kings 11. And wouldn't you agree, 1 Kings 11, Solomon's Errors, is the moral of the story? Don't you think people getting into, let's say, Freemasonry would want to know about the abominations and the temples he created? I think so. And goes on to say, scene and location, principal characters, and it says, particular event or occasion. King David, Solomon's father and predecessor on the throne of Israel, was forbidden by the Lord to build a temple because he was a man of war and had shed blood. He was assured, however, that his son would build the temple. And he was permitted to gather large sums of money and to make other preparations. Yeah. Goes on to talk about 108,000 talents of gold, 1,017,000 talents of silver, all sorts of different stuff they put together to make this temple, 70,000 laborers, and it's all very confusing, right? Are we talking about a real physical temple, or are we talking about something different? Or are we talking about both? We don't really know, right? It's kind of mysterious. But let's go ahead. Oh my goodness, look at this picture of George Washington. Unbelievable. Okay, what you don't hear in the Bible and what you won't learn entering Freemasonry is about the book Goetia, or the Lesser Key of Solomon, right? Solomon was able to summon and have contact with many demons. 72 demons are listed in his book. And the way this would be done is through ceremonial magic. And this is where the use of sigils come in, like a hexagram. A hexagram can be a sigil, right? That's where the whole mystical powers of it come into play. So, in the book, The Lesser Key of Solomon, all of these sigils are written down. And these sigils are used by mystery schools, Satanism, Luciferianism. They flash them in cartoons. They flash them on episodes of WWE. They're in magazines. They're in movies. They're on the background walls in video games. Everywhere. Everywhere. And these sigils were tools. These seals or sigils are tools used to summon the specific demons. Right. And then once summoned, the book goes on to talk about how Solomon had mastered the technique of binding them and making it so the demon will do your bidding. Now, the interpretation some people make of this, which I lean towards, is the temple physical? I don't think so. Because we are the temple of God. The Bible confirms that. We are the temple of God. And if we are the temple of God, perhaps Solomon was building a different kind of temple. A temple inside of man. An altar inside of man, right? And this kind of ties into what we're living through today. Mind control. And when we say the word mind control, that might not sound like the right term, but think about it. For example, the shape of what we live on, 90% of people believe is a ball spinning through space. That's mind control. I could go on and on and on. You know what I mean? So perhaps Solomon's temple and this whole ethos around it that the Masons are so obsessed with, perhaps it has something to do with Lucifer being the prince of the air, right? The prince of the air, the prince of things unseen. And if our temple's inside of us, then maybe we can connect these two things together. Looking for a $1 bill in my wallet real quick. There we go. Just wanted to show that real quick. Classic. Anyway, perhaps Solomon's temple has something to do with forces unseen. Certainly does if we're talking about sigils, seals, and demons, right? So when we look back where it says he employed 70,000 men, perhaps we're not getting the right definition of employed. I'm starting to think that Solomon had mastered some of these occult powers that are resurfacing today. The power to control people's thoughts, the power to implant ideas in people's heads, the power to take a lie and somehow dress it up in light and make it sound true, and then have everybody in society follow it. And this is the type of witchcraft we're living through today. Millions and millions and millions of people are injecting themselves with experimental messenger ribonucleic protein technology. They're being led down a path of which there is no return. They are setting up the abomination of desolation inside their temples. You see, that's what this is all about. This is all about corrupting the temple of God. That is why they need to get inside of us. They need our DNA. They need you to go get the you-know-what. So perhaps Solomon's temple, the whole story of it, is something more along those lines. I hope that made sense, and I'll probably be back later with another video. Thank you guys. I'll see you again.